Good evening, David Sue. All right, so a lot of stuff that I hear people talk about is very obvious problems in the city, dirty streets, overdevelopment and such. So I think we lose sight sometimes of the relationship between the city council and the administration. So the city code is essentially a game plan, a rule book on what the legislative branch of government feels needs to be done in the city. And then we're looking toward the administration to implement these goals and objectives. But what we don't do, which we need to do better, is to have a performance audit of the services in the city. So an example would be you audit all the activities, department by department, service by service, and we see where there's a weak spot. So I've been a tenant association president at the same property for over 30 years, and I can tell you that because the health department and DCA, who does multifamily for no heat, they're only there during regular business hours during the week. So after hours on the weekends, the landlords know because there's nobody there to do enforcement. And it's not adequately staffed often, so even when you call it in, you don't see somebody for days. So that would be a gap that you could fill legislatively. You could say we're going to assign more resource in this area, and we're going to make sure people get that area of service. And that's an example, but that can be done across the board, and we'd all be able to see it, and it would be a process of creating accountability. It's fine to have rules on the books, but if nobody's following the rules, or you only get a service because you know somebody, or somebody's your friend, that's a big problem. And there's other areas I wanted to talk about, transportation and overpopulation, and hopefully I can get to those points later on this evening. Thank you.
All right, David, so my question for you, Mr. Sue, is that elections are about the future. As such, without arguing past accomplishments or failures, what will your election holds for the city? What directly is your election? What will it hold for the city?
In the past, I've had a vision of economic development at the Great Falls. And I pushed that agenda, and it resulted in a national park. The thing that's most emergent on our doorstep now, there's the largest infrastructure project in America is the Gateway train project that goes from Boston down to Washington, D.C. Now, Patterson is the third largest city in the state, but we have the worst transportation of any of the 7 major cities. And we are being left out of this process. The study, I think from 2014 or 2010, said if we had a direct connection to New York City and were connected to this Gateway project up and down the East Coast, we would see a 19% increase in property values. 19%. That would be a huge boon to everybody in this community, and it would give a lot of property tax relief. That, and you know, we just saw that 90%, I mean, we're being left out of that. Nobody's doing anything about it. But we just saw 90% of the high school children fail their math test for public school. It's a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe. Part of that is that we're allowing our city to become overpopulated. I know the state wants to push more affordable or low-income housing into Patterson, but we can't sustain the population. Out of a pool of about 2,200 teachers, we're short 160. We have schools closing because they're being condemned, they're not safe. So it's fine, we can accommodate more population, but there has to be money for services and resources to provide transportation, whatever it is, make the municipal services work better. And if the state wants to send us money for housing, they need to send us money to help take care of these things. And we need to take care of ourselves better. Because we should not, sometimes when somebody says, oh, it's free, I'll give you money, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.